Hey guys, tonight we are swapping serene mountain temples for something a little grander and a lot more crowded. We're headed to the Palace of Versailles in the late 17th century to wake up as the most powerful man in Europe, King Louis XIV, the Sun King. But this isn't about grand balls or military campaigns. This is about the most bizarre, public, and politically charged morning routine you can possibly imagine. Forget your quiet cup of coffee and 5 minutes of peace. Your bedroom is the hottest ticket in the kingdom, and your personal space is about to be invaded by literally 100 of France's most important people. Honestly, your 21st century soul might not survive the sheer, suffocating lack of privacy. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Your support means the world. And while you're at it, I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop your city and the current time in the comments below. It's always a quiet thrill to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you become aware of is the weight. Not the weight of the crown. Not yet. It's the physical weight of the bedclothes. You are adrift in a sea of linen sheets, a mountain of down pillows, and a quilted silk coverlet so heavy it feels like a friendly suit of armor. You are lying in the most magnificent bed in the most magnificent palace in the world, and you are, for these last few precious seconds, completely alone within it. You open your eyes. The world is a deep, crimson gloom. You are enclosed on all sides by thick, opulent curtains of gold and crimson brocade, so heavy they block out almost all light and sound. This is your sanctuary, your cocknel, but you know it's an illusion. The silence isn't real silence. If you hold your breath and listen, truly listen, you can hear it. The faint, almost imperceptible rustle of silk stockings. The soft scrape of a buckled shoe on a polished wooden floor. The tiny, instantly suppressed cough. They are already here, waiting. Your bedroom is not a private space. It is the very center of France. The architects who designed this palace, your Palace of Versailles, were not just building a home. They were crafting a universe with you as its son. The entire building, the sprawling gardens, the very city outside, is aligned on an east-west axis that runs directly through this bed. Every morning, the real sun rises over the courtyard of the marble, its rays traveling down the central axis to strike your chamber. The kingdom revolves around you, and it begins the moment you wake. This morning ritual is called the Lever the Rising, and it is a performance. Everything you do from the moment you stir until you walk out that door will be governed by a set of rules so precise, so intricate, that it makes the monastery you visited feel like a casual beach party. Your waking is not a private act. It is the first official state business of the day. Here's a curious thought. You are the king. You invented most of these rules. You could, in theory, just tell everyone to go away, but you won't, because you, Louis, understand something profound about power. It is not enough to simply have it. It must be seen. It must be performed every single day. This suffocating ritual, this golden cage, is the very source of your authority. By allowing the highest nobles of the realm to watch you wake, you are not showing weakness. You are reminding them that access to your person, even in your most vulnerable state, is the greatest privilege they can ever hope to achieve. They are not here to watch you sleep. They are here to orbit their sun. Still, the personal reality of this is something historians and biographers continue to debate. You are Louis, the man born into this role, raised from birth to believe your life was a public spectacle. Did you ever truly resent it? Did you ever lie here in this crimson darkness and wish for the simple, anonymous peace of a farmer in his cottage? Or was this attention as necessary and natural to you as air? Did you thrive on it, feeling the thrum of your kingdom's power through the floorboards? Or did you simply endure it as the price of divinity on earth? The answer is locked away behind your royal brow, a state secret no one will ever truly know. You feel a slight shift in the atmosphere outside the curtains. A key has turned softly in a lock. A single, trusted set of footsteps approaches the bed. The show is about to begin. The first and most privileged member of the audience has arrived. You take a final, deep breath in your cocoon. The king is awake. It is time to let the world in. The crimson gloom parts. A hand, steady and practiced, pulls back the heavy brocade curtain just enough to create an opening. A face appears in the gap. It is the first face you see every day, and arguably the most trusted face in your entire kingdom. It belongs to your premier valet de chambre, your first valet. He is not a young servant. He is a man of status, a gentleman, his expression a perfect blend of deference and quiet authority. He leans in, not so close as to be presumptuous, but close enough for his voice to be a private whisper meant only for you. "Sire," he says, his voice low and even. "It is time. This is the official beginning, the first line in the daily play of your life." You don't reply with words. A slight nod, a flicker of your eyelids, is enough. You are the king. Your acknowledgement is a gift. The valet understands. He pulls the curtain back further, securing it to the massive bedpost. The dim morning light of the chamber spills into your cocoon, and the world begins. Let's be clear about this man's role. The first valet is not just the guy who wakes you up. He is the ultimate gatekeeper. He holds one of the most coveted positions at court because he controls the first and last moments of your day. He helps you undress at night and helps you dress in the morning. And here's the detail that truly underlines his proximity to power. He sleeps in this very room, on a small folding cot at the foot of your magnificent bed. He is never truly off minus duty. His entire existence is dedicated to the orbit of your person. He moves now with a silent, poetic grace born of years of repetition. He goes to the fireplace, where embers are still glowing, and discreetly directs a junior valet to add another log. He checks a silver tray holding a cup and saucer, ensuring it is ready. He is the stage manager, ensuring every prop is in its place before the next actors are allowed to enter. And his duties cover everything. After whispering you awake, one of his first tasks is to bring you the royal chamber pot, or to draw the curtains around the chaise percée, your ornate toilet chair, attending to the first and most basic of your morning needs while you are still behind the privacy of the bed curtains. Imagine the first act of your day is a biological necessity, performed while a high-ranking nobleman stands just a few feet away, ready to assist. Privacy, as you understand it, simply does not exist. It has been sacrificed at the altar of statehood. The relationship between you, the king, and this man is a source of endless fascination for historians. On one hand, it was a formal, rigidly defined role. On the other, how could it not become personal? This man, someone like the famous Alexander Bottoms who served you for decades, saw you at your most vulnerable, bleary-eyed aside from sleep. Sick, complaining, unguarded. He knew your moods better than your own wife. Did you confide in him? Did you share a quiet, human moment in the pre-dawn hours before the court descended? The memoirs of the time are filled with hints, but no certainties. They speak of the valet's unwavering loyalty and discretion. But whether this was the loyalty of a devoted friend or the professional perfection of a man whose entire family's fortune depended on your favor is a question that remains debated in the quiet halls of academia. The valet's whisper might be the most intimate sound you hear all day, but it could still just be part of the performance. He now moves to the main door of the bedchamber. He doesn't open it. He simply stands near it, waiting for your signal. He has orchestrated the overture. The stage is set. The king is awakened, has attended to his first needs. Everything is in its place. He catches your eye and gives a slight, questioning nod. You give him the signal, perhaps another slight inclination of your head. It is time for the first entree, the first official entry. The valet turns the gilded handle, and the door opens. not to a flood of people, but to the first, most privileged wave of intruders. The quiet, -person ballet is over. The ensemble is about to arrive. The first people to enter the room are not courtiers or ministers. They are your physicians, the first physician, the first surgeon, and your personal apothecaries step into the chamber. Their black robes a stark and somber contrast to the room's gilded splendor. They approach your bed with an air of grave importance, their faces set in expressions of deep, professional concern. The first physician comes forward, bows deeply, and begins his morning inquiry. "Sire, has your majesty slept well?" he asks, his voice imbued with a tone of immense seriousness. He will then proceed to ask a series of questions about your digestion, your humors, and any aches or pains you might be feeling. You, propped up against a mountain of pillows, answer his questions. Perhaps you mention a touch of indigestion or a stiffness in your shoulder. Every word you say is noted, analyzed, and will likely become the subject of a lengthy, hushed conference between these three men later in the day. This morning ritual is your daily check-up, but it's not medicine as you would know it. This is 17th century medicine, a world of humors, bleeding, and purges. The prevailing theory is that the body is governed by for fluids, or humors blood, yellow bile, and black bile. Illness is caused by an imbalance of these humors. Their job is to rebalance you, and their methods are robust. Following their examination, they might prescribe a morning remedy. This is rarely a simple pill. It could be a vigorous rubbing down with a scented alcohol solution, intended to stimulate the flow of blood. More often, it involves a purge or an enema, practices to which you, Louis, were notoriously subjected. You might have to endure this procedure right here, in your bed, with these solemn faced men supervising, all before you've even had a sip of broth. It's a humbling and profoundly uncomfortable start to the day, all carried out under the guise of the most advanced medical science of the time. Here's a particularly weird and well-documented detail about your medical history. You were a physician's dream and a patient's nightmare. Your health was documented in excruciating detail in a journal, the Journal de las and a Du Roy Journal of the King's Health, kept by your successive physicians. We know, for instance, that you underwent thousands of purges and hundreds of bleeding in your lifetime. We know about your dental problems, which led to a horrific procedure where a large portion of your upper jaw was removed, creating a hole into your nasal cavity. When you drank, liquid would sometimes come out of your nose. This journal is a bizarrely intimate, and often stomach-churning, look into the realities of royal health. Your body was not your own. It was a state asset whose every function and malfunction was a matter of public record. The science behind their diagnoses was, of course, a subject of intense debate even in its own time. The world of Parisian medicine was rife with professional rivalries. The physicians, who were university-trained theorists, often clashed with the surgeons, who were seen as more manual craftsmen. They would argue fiercely over the correct course of treatment for the king. Was your indigestion caused by an excess of black bile, requiring a specific herbal concoction, or was it an issue of hot blood in the stomach, requiring a strategic bleeding from the arm? The men standing before you now might present a united front, but their professional world was a snake pit of competing theories and egos. Your royal body was the battlefield on which these medical philosophies fought for dominance. After the examination and the prescribed remedy, the apothecary might step forward with a small, silver cup. This contains a restorative drink, a concoction of herbs, wine, and other, more esoteric ingredients. It could be sage wine, believed to clear the head, or something far more complex. You drink it down. The taste often bitter and unpleasant. It is the price you pay for their care, a daily dose of questionable science. Finally, their work is done. They have poked, prodded, questioned, and treated you. They bow again, their faces still etched with that same solemnity, and retreat from the bedside. They will remain in the room, observing from a corner, their black robes a constant, silent reminder of your mortal fragility in this room dedicated to your divine power. The first valet, who has been standing by with a towel or a basin, gives you a subtle nod. The first medical trial of the day is over. It's time for the next wave to arrive. The door opens once more, not tentatively this time, but with a confident swing. The first valet steps aside, bowing low, as the next, and most intimate, group of visitors enters. This is the entree family ray, the family entry, and it is, in its own way, even more strange than the medical examination. First to enter is likely your own brother, Philippe, the Duke of Orleans. He is known simply as Monsieur, a man of exquisite, if flamboyant, taste, and a sharp political mind. He is followed by your son and heir, the Dauphin, and perhaps one or two of your legitimized children from your various mistresses, who hold princely rank. Finally, the Queen herself, Maria Theresa, enters. They are all impeccably dressed, even at this early hour, in silks and lace, their faces powdered, their expressions carefully composed. They approach your bed, a silent procession of immense power and complex relationships. They don't rush forward for a group hug. This is not that kind of family. They approach in a strict, unassailable order of precedence. Your brother, as the next most powerful man in the kingdom, comes first. He might kiss your cheek, a gesture that is both brotherly and a formal acknowledgement of your superior rank. Then your son, the heir, will do the same. You are still propped up in bed, wearing a simple linen nightshirt and perhaps a lace-trimmed cap to cover your un-wig head. And here you are, in this state of relative undress, holding court for your exquisitely attired family. It's the world's most powerful and possibly most awkward family reunion, and it happens every single day. They ask after your health. You exchange a few brief, formal words. The conversation is quiet, polite, and freighted with 1,000 unspoken tensions and alliances. Here is a truly bizarre detail of your domestic life. The Queen, your wife, does not sleep in this bed. She has her own magnificent suite of apartments, her own bedroom, her own morning ritual. This moment, her formal entry into your bedchamber, is one of the primary points of contact in your daily lives. Your marriage is a political and dynastic union, and its functions are often as public as this one. The good morning between husband and wife is a scheduled event, witnessed by the physician's unveilance, a small piece of theater confirming the stability of the royal couple. They do not linger by the bedside. After the formal greetings, they retreat to take out strategic positions around the room, becoming, for a moment, part of the audience. Their presence is a statement. They are here by right of blood. Their access to you a cut above even the highest ranking dukes who are still waiting impatiently in the antechamber. They are staking their claim, reminding everyone in the room of their unique, unassailable proximity to the sun. This brief family gathering is a point of endless fascination for historians. What was the true emotional texture of these moments? Were they a brief, genuine island of familial connection in a sea of rigid protocol? A moment where you, Louis the man, could see your brother and son? Or was it just another, more intimate, act in the ongoing political drama? Court diarists, particularly the sharp-tongued and gossipy Duke of Saint-Simon, would have you believe it was pure political theater. He would describe the subtle glances, the jockeying for position, the way a slight coolness from you could ruin a prince's day, or a warm word could signal a shift in royal favor. In his telling, this was a daily chess match where the pieces just happened to be related by blood. But other historians argue for a more nuanced view. While protocol was everything, these were still people. You had genuine affection for some of your family members and deep frustrations with others. Perhaps these few minutes were a complex mix of both a real, if highly constrained, family moment that was simultaneously a performance for the coming crowds. The truth of whether you felt more like a father or a king in these 5 minutes is likely something you yourself couldn't have entangled. The roles had long since merged. The family preview is now over. They have paid their respects and taken their places. Their presence has raised the stakes in the room. The first valet, seeing that this stage of the ceremony is complete, now moves with great purpose toward the bed itself. He looks not at the door, but at the main bed curtains, the heavy gold minus crimson barrier that still shields you from the main part of the room. He is waiting for your command. The most exclusive part of the morning is over. It is time to let there be light. With your family arranged around the room and the medical team observing from the corner, you give another one of your subtle, powerful signals. It's time for the day's first grand reveal. The first valet moves to the head of the bed, his posture one of immense ceremony. He is about to perform one of the most privileged actions of the morning. He takes hold of the heavy draw minus cord for the bed curtains. For a moment, he pauses. This is a dramatic beat, a silent drumroll. The entire room, a small but powerful assembly of your closest relatives and attendants, holds its breath. Then, with a smooth, practiced pull, he draws the main curtains open. The effect is immediate and theatrical. Light from the tall windows on the far side of the room floods into the alcove, illuminating you fully for the first time. You are no longer a shadowy figure in a crimson gloom. You are revealed, propped up against a mountain of white pillows, the lace on your nightshirt and cap catching the morning sun. The Sun King has risen. This is not just about letting in light. It is a deeply symbolic act. In a court obsessed with symbols, this is one of the most potent. The drawing of the curtains is the equivalent of a sunrise. You, the center of the French universe, are now visible. The day can officially, truly begin. All the ceremony that came before the wake minus up whisper, the medical prodding, the family entry, was mere prelude. This is the moment the world gets its first proper look at its monarch. The bed itself is a theater. It sits in a recessed alcove, separated from the rest of the room by a magnificent, gilded balustrade, like a communion rail in a church. This railing physically marks the boundary between your sacred space and the more public part of the chamber. Only the most privileged, the valets, the doctors, your immediate family are allowed to cross it without your express invitation. Everyone else must remain on the other side, observing you as if you were a holy relic on an altar. There's a curious detail about the bedchamber's design. It wasn't just a room. It was a masterpiece of political geography. Its position at the very heart of the palace was a deliberate statement. As the court grew and Versailles was expanded over the decades, this room remained the unmoving center, the pivot around which everything else was built. Even the Great Hall of Mirrors, the most famous room in the palace, is merely a grand passageway leading to and from your apartments. All roads and all corridors lead to this bed. Your waking moment is the gravitational event that sets the entire massive machinery of the palace and the government in motion. As the light hits your face, you do not blink or squint. You are practiced in this. You hold a serene, composed expression. You are on display, and you know it. You are the living embodiment of France, and your first public appearance of the day, even in your nightclothes, must be one of effortless majesty. The historical significance of this daily ritual is a subject that still fascinates scholars of political science and theater. The political theorist Ernst Kantorowicz wrote about the concept of the king's two bodies, the mortal, physical body natural, and the immortal, divine body politic. Your bedchamber is where these two bodies meet in the most dramatic way possible. You, the mortal man with indigestion and thinning hair, are simultaneously the immortal embodiment of the French state. The lover ceremony is the daily, ritualistic process of transforming the former into the latter. The drawing of the curtains is the moment when the physical man is officially presented as the political god. But was this symbolism understood and appreciated by everyone? Or was it a tedious and slightly absurd ritual for those involved? The memoirs of courtiers like Saint Minos Simon often drip with cynicism, portraying the lever as a ridiculous pantomime that everyone was forced to endure. He saw the vanity, the jostling, the naked ambition. But other sources, more official accounts, portray it with breathless reverence, as a quasi-minus religious ceremony of profound importance. The truth, as is so often the case, is probably a complex mix. For some, it was a holy rite. For others, it was the world's most boring, yet most important, show, and for you, it was simply the way things were done. The curtains are now fully open, looped and secured to the bedposts. You are fully visible, enthroned in your bed, the pale morning sun serving as your first spotlight. The intimate part of the audience family, doctors, valets, is in place. The stage is fully lit. And now, as the first valet moves toward a small book resting on your bedside table, it's time for the first official act of the newly revealed king. Now that you are fully revealed, enthroned in your sunlit bed, the first order of business is not about politics or fashion. It is an act of piety. The first valet retrieves a small, jewel-encrusted holy water vessel, a benitier, from your bedside table. He presents it to you with a bow. You dip the tips of your fingers into the cool water and make the sign of the cross. It is a slow, deliberate gesture, performed for the benefit of your small but powerful audience. This is not a private, mumbled prayer. It is a public declaration. Your day, and by extension the day of the entire Kingdom of France, begins with an acknowledgement of God. Next, the chaplain, who has been waiting discreetly in a corner of the room, steps forward to the gilded balustrade. He does not cross it. He begins to recite the office of the Holy Spirit, a short daily prayer. His voice is a low, vocal monotone, filling the room with the ancient Latin phrases. You listen, your head bowed slightly, your expression one of solemn devotion. This moment is absolutely crucial to the image you have so carefully crafted. You are the most Christian king, a title held by French monarchs for centuries. Your power, you have argued, does not come from the people or even from your ancestors alone. It comes directly from God. This daily prayer is a reinforcement of the doctrine of divine right. You are showing your card, and through them, all of France, that you, their absolute ruler, are yourself subservient to a higher power. It's a masterful piece of political theater. It sanctifies your authority, lifting it out of the grubby realm of mere politics and into the ethereal realm of divine will. But your personal piety was more than just a performance. You were, by all accounts, a genuinely devout Catholic, at least in the latter half of your reign. Your days were punctuated by religious services. You attended Mass every single morning after this lever ceremony. And your political decisions, such as the disastrous revocation of the Edict of Nantes which outlawed Protestantism, were driven by a desire to enforce religious unity in your kingdom. Your faith was real, and it had profound, and often harsh, consequences for your subjects. Here's a curious detail that adds a layer of complexity to this scene of piety. While you pray, you are surrounded by the living evidence of your very human sins. Standing in the room are several of your legitimized children, born to your official mistresses, Madame de Montespan and Madame d'Ile of Vallière. Your private life was famously not in keeping with the strict moral codes of the Church. This created a lifelong tension. You were both the most Christian king and a notorious adulterer. This morning prayer, then, is not just a political statement, but perhaps also a moment of personal complexity, a king acknowledging his God while surrounded by the fruits of his transgressions. The history of your relationship with the Church is a fascinating and often contentious one. You were a defender of the faith, but you were also a fierce defender of your own royal prerogatives against the power of the Pope in Rome. This led to a long minus running political and theological struggle known as Gallicanism, the belief that the French crown had a significant degree of authority over the Catholic Church within its own borders. You clashed with popes, appointed your own bishops, and insisted on being the master in your own religious house. So as you pray, the act is layered with meaning. You are submitting to God, but not necessarily to his representative in the Vatican. It is a very particular, very French kind of piety. Scholars still debate the depth and nature of your personal faith. Was your later minus-life devotion a genuine spiritual awakening, perhaps influenced by your more Gnatic life, the pious Madame de Maintenon? Or was it a canny political move, a way to consolidate your image as a righteous king as you grew older? Was it driven by a fear of eternal damnation after a life of excess? Or was it all part of the grand, calculated performance of kingship? As with so much about you, the answer is likely a complex tapestry woven from all these threads. The chaplain's prayer concludes. He makes the sign of the cross towards you, bows, and retreats back into the periphery. The valley removes the holy water vessel. The sacred part of the ceremony is complete. The room is now sanctified. Your authority divinely blessed. The atmosphere shifts. The moment of quiet reverence is over. Now, the worldly business of creating the king can begin in earnest. The first step, dealing with your hair. The moment of prayer passes, and the energy in the room shifts from the sacred back to the secular. The next person to be granted access to the hallowed space within the balustrade is your royal barber. He approaches with his own set of elaborate tools. Not for a shave, you are famously clean minus shaven, but to attend to the matter of your royal head. He begins by removing the simple, lace minus trimmed linen cap you wore through the night. This is a moment of startling, almost shocking, vulnerability. For a brief few minutes, the court sees you as you truly are a man in his later years, with thinning hair, going bald on top. This is the body natural, in its most unadorned state. A fleeting glimpse of the mortal man beneath the magnificent facade. The barber then gets to work. He gently combs your remaining hair. He might apply a small amount of scented pomade. This is not about styling what little is left, but about preparing your head for what is to come. While he works, another attendant presents you with a small mirror, and you inspect your face, ensuring your shave from the previous day is still acceptable. Then comes the first transformation of the day. The barber does not reach for the grand, full minus bottomed wig you are famous for. That is for later. Instead, he picks up a much smaller, lighter, and less formal wig. This is the perruque du leva, the rising wig. It's a short, modest affair, often with a few simple curls, designed merely to cover your baldness and provide a semblance of propriety for the next stages of the ceremony. It is, essentially, a placeholder wig. He carefully fits this temporary wig onto your head. The transformation is immediate. The vulnerable, balding man vanishes, replaced by a figure of more recognizable authority. It's a small change, but a crucial one. You are no longer in a state of nature. The process of constructing the public you has officially begun. Here's a fascinating, and slightly itchy, fact about the wigs of this era. They were not just fashion accessories. They were symbols of status, and they were notoriously uncomfortable und unhygienic. Made from human hair, or sometimes horse or goat hair for cheaper models. They were heavy, hard, and rarely washed. Instead, they were regularly freshened with a dusting of finely ground, scented powder, usually starch or flour, which helped to cover up dirt and absorb oils. This powder would get everywhere, on your clothes and in the air. The world of Versailles, for all its gilded glamour, was a world filled with the faint scent of stale hair powder. The fashion for these enormous wigs, or perruques, was something you, Louis, personally popularized. As a young man, you had a magnificent head of long, thick, curly hair, but as you began to lose it, you adopted the wig to maintain your majestic, Leon-like image. The court, ever eager to emulate you, followed suit. Soon, no man of any standing would dare appear in public without a wig. You didn't just rule France, you dictated its hairline. The role of the royal barber wig maker was, therefore, one of immense importance. Your chief wig maker, or barbier minus perruquier, was a highly skilled and well-paid artisan. He would have a workshop filled with assistants, creating and maintaining your vast collection of wigs for every possible occasion: a wig for hunting, a wig for council meetings, a wig for formal balls, and this, the simple wig for getting out of bed. The historical debate around this fashion often centers on its origins. While you popularized the grand perruque, the trend of men wearing wigs had been bubbling under for some time. Some historians suggest it was a way to cover up the baldness and sores caused by the syphilis epidemic that was rampant in Europe. Others see it as a natural evolution of the long hair trend for aristocratic men. Whatever its origin, you turned it into an unmistakable symbol of the ancien regime. The wig became a uniform of the aristocracy, a clear visual marker separating the privileged from the common folk. The barber has finished his work. The short rising wig is perfectly in place. He gathers his tools, bows deeply, and retreats from the bedside, his crucial but temporary role complete. You are now coiffed and presentable, at least by the preliminary standards of the day. You look in the mirror one last time, no longer seeing the vulnerable man, but the king in his first stage of assembly. The transformation is underway, and now that you are properly wigged, you are ready for the main event. The first valet moves to the grand double doors of the bedchamber. The most exclusive entries are over. It is time to open the floodgates. With the placeholder wig on and your family arranged around you, the first valet gives a sharp, formal nod to the ushers stationed outside. The great double doors of the bedchamber are swung fully open, and the day's main performance begins. This is the grand entree, the grand entry, and it is a human flood. The antechamber, known as the oil minus D minus both bulls minus I room, for its distinctive oval window, has been packed for the last hour with a jostling, whispering, anxious crowd of the most powerful people in France. These are the high nobility, the dukes and marquises, the senior military officers, the great ministers of state, and a few favored ambassadors. They have all been waiting, some for hours, for this moment. Access to the lever is the ultimate status symbol, and the order in which they are admitted is a brutally precise barometer of their standing at court. Now, the ushers begin to call out names, and the tide rushes in. The room, which was previously occupied by a mere handful of people, begins to fill, and fill, and fill. Soon, there are dozens of men crammed into the space beyond the gilded balustrade. The room hums with their collective presence. The air grows thick with the scents of their perfumes and hair powders, a heady mix of musk, ambergris, and jasmine attempting to mask the fact that personal hygiene is not what it could be. You, from your throne minus-like position in bed, watch them file in. This is not a friendly morning gathering. This is a political arena. Every person who enters bows deeply towards you, their eyes trying to catch yours. A slight nod from you, a fleeting flicker of recognition, can make a duke's entire week. To be ignored is a public humiliation, a clear sign that one stock at court is falling. You are the source of all favor, and this is the daily market where it is publicly traded. They do not speak to you. They speak to each other in low, urgent whispers. Their conversations a whirlwind of court gossip, political maneuvering, and requests for favors. Did you see the new tapestries in the Apollo Salon? The Minister of War looked furious yesterday. His proposal must have been rejected. Can you put in a word for my cousin's appointment in the cavalry? The room is a symphony of ambition, and you are its silent conductor. This incredible, crowded intimacy was the very heart of your system of government. By compelling the high nobility to live at Versailles and attend these tedious, daily rituals, You achieved something remarkable. You defanged them. For centuries, the French nobility had been a rebellious, warlike class, constantly challenging the power of the crown from their own fortified castles. You turned these fearsome warriors into tame, gossiping courtiers. Their new battlefields were not in the fields of Flanders, but here, in your bedchamber. They fought not with swords, but with witty remarks, fashionable clothes, and, most importantly, proximity to you. Their greatest ambition was no longer to raise an army against you, but to be granted the honor of watching you put on your stockings. Here is a truly bizarre detail that illustrates the absurdity and importance of this ritual. The crowd was so dense that there was often a literal press of bodies. People would jostle and subtly shove to get a better vantage point, to be seen by you or to overhear a crucial conversation. The Duke of St. Simon, a man obsessed with rank and protocol, writes with outrage in his memoirs about a lesser noble who once dared to stand in front of him, blocking his view of you. The incident almost caused a diplomatic crisis within the court. Your bedroom was not just a room. It was a highly contested piece of real estate. The historical interpretation of this system is complex. Traditional historians saw it as a brilliant masterstroke of political genius, the taming of the aristocracy. You created a gilded cage that kept your potential rivals occupied with trivialitis while you ran the country with your ministers. More recent social historians, however, have a more nuanced view. They argue that the nobility were not simply passive victims of your scheme. They were active participants who learned to work the system. They used their access at court to secure patronage, land grants, and powerful positions for their families. They may have lost their military independence, but they gained immense wealth and influence through the new currency of royal favor. The lever was not just a spectacle of your power. It was also the central marketplace for an entire political economy based on personal access. The room is now packed to capacity. 100 pairs of eyes are fixed on you. The air is thick with expectation. The audience is assembled. The initial greetings are over. They are all waiting for the main act of the lever to begin, the slow, ritualized, and intensely political process of you getting dressed. And it all starts with a single, humble garment, the shirt. The room is now silent. Standing minus room minus only theater of the powerful. The 100 pairs of eyes are all fixed on the space within the gilded balustrade. The time has come for the passage de la chemise, the passing of the shirt. This is, without exaggeration, one of the most politically charged moments of the entire morning. The first valet steps forward, holding your clean day minus shirt. It is made of the finest, softest linen, exquisitely embroidered, with billowing sleeves and a lace minus trimmed collar. But he does not hand it to you. He holds it, waiting. Now begins a delicate, real minus time assessment of who is in the room. The honor of helping you with your shirt is reserved for the highest minus, ranking and most favored individuals present. If your son, the Dauphin, is in the room, the privilege is his by right of blood. The first valet will hand the shirt to him. The Dauphin will then approach your bed, take one of your arms, and guide it into a sleeve. The valet will then assist with the other arm. But what if the Dauphin is not present? Then, the privilege falls to the next highest ranking person, perhaps your brother, Monsieur, and if he isn't there, it cascades down the impossibly complex hierarchy of the French nobility. A prince of the blood, a legitimized son, a high ranking duke. The decision of who gets the honor is a public declaration of their current standing. To be chosen is a sign of immense favor. To be passed over, especially if you thought you were next in line, is a crushing public rebuke. You can imagine the silent tension in the room as everyone calculates their rank and watches to see who the first valet approaches. Today, let's say your son is present. The valet hands him the folded shirt. The Dauphin, the future king of France, approaches your bed. He unfolds the linen. You, the current king, lift your arms like a child being dressed. Your son guides your right arm into the voluminous sleeve. The first valet, Evermine is present, smoothly manages the loft. For a moment, father and son are engaged in this simple, domestic act, transformed into a profound statement of dynastic continuity in front of the entire court. The old son is dressed by the rising sun. As they help you into the shirt, you shrug off your nightshirt from underneath. And here's the slightly awkward and very human detail for a split second. You are bare minus-chested, in a room full of 100 of the most powerful men in Europe. There is no screen, no private corner. This brief moment of royal nudity is simply part of the accepted ritual. The first valet discreetly takes the discarded nightshirt, and the moment passes. This obsession with who hands you what piece of clothing seems absurd to a modern mind, but it was the very fabric of court life. The right to hand the king his shirt was known as the honneur de la chemise. It was a privilege so sought minus after that nobles would scheme and plot for months to obtain it. Why? Because it granted them a moment of physical proximity and a potential opportunity to whisper a quick request or piece of information directly into your ear while the rest of the court watched with envy. It was a tangible piece of political capital. This system of honors extended to almost every item of your clothing. The master of the grand wardrobe had the honor of handing you your waistcoat and breeches. A different courtier might have the honor of buckling your shoes. It was a finely sliced salami of privilege, and every piece was jealously guarded. The historical interpretation of this bizarre ritual is fascinating. Was it a deliberate strategy you devised to keep the nobles busy and competitive over trivialities? The traditional view, heavily influenced by the Memoirs of Saint Simon, certainly paints it that way. You, the master puppeteer, were pulling the strings, making grown men squabble over a shirt while you got on with the business of ruling. However, other historians argue that this system wasn't so much invented by you as it was a tradition you perfected. The French court had a long history of ceremonial life inherited from the Burgundian courts of the late Middle Ages. You simply recognized the power of this existing ritual and amplified it, turning it into the central organizing principle of your court. You didn't necessarily create the game, but you became its undisputed master, changing the rules to suit your needs and ensuring you were always the house that won. The shirt is now on. The valet smooths the lace at your collar and cuffs. The most coveted part of the dressing ceremony is complete. You are one step closer to being fully assembled. The Dauphin, his duty performed, steps back, his own status subtly reinforced for the day. The rest of the court exhales a collective silence. The tension dissipates slightly, only to rebuild as they anticipate the next piece of the sartorial puzzle. But before more clothes are added, it is time for a small, but necessary, pause for sustenance. With the fresh linen shirt now gracing your royal torso, the whirlwind of getting dressed pauses for a brief, almost shockingly simple, interlude. While the court watches, the first volley signals to an attendant, who enters bearing a silver tray. On the tray is a single, covered porcelain bowl and a silver spoon. This is your breakfast. The attendant hands the tray not to you, but to the first valet, who then places it on a small, ornate table that has been moved next to your bed. He removes the lid with a quiet flourish. Steam rises from the bowl, carrying a simple, savory aroma. There are no croissants, no eggs, no elaborate pastries. Your breakfast, consumed in the most public of settings, is a model of medicinal simplicity. It is a bowl of broth. Specifically, it is likely a double minus strength, chicken or beef broth, perhaps with a few morsels of soft bread soaking at the bottom. It is served unadorned, a nourishing, warming, and easily digestible meal prescribed by your physicians to be gentle on your royal stomach. You take the bowl yourself. The court watches in absolute silence as you lift the silver spoon and take the first sip. This is a rare moment of stillness in the chaotic ceremony. The only sound is the faint, almost imperceptible click of the silver spoon against the porcelain bowl. You are not just eating. You are performing the act of sustenance. This moment is solitary. No one else is eating. No one speaks to you. You are an island of quiet consumption in a sea of watchful eyes. The simplicity of the meal stands in stark, almost deliberate, contrast to the opulence surrounding you, the gilded walls, the priceless tapestries, the silken jewels of the courtiers. It's another subtle piece of theater. It projects an image of moderation and self-minus discipline. A king who is not a glutton, who fuels his body for the service of the state with simple, healthy fare. Here's a curious detail about your dining habits. While your breakfast was Spartan, your other meals were not. Your main midday meal, the diner, and your evening supper, the super, were often lavish, multi-minus-course affairs, also performed in public. You were known to have a prodigious appetite, capable of consuming enormous quantities of food. So this simple morning broth is a bit of a performance. It's the show breakfast, the one that fits the morning's narrative of sober, divine kingship. The food itself tells a story about the state of French cuisine and royal life. The kitchens of Versailles were a massive, complex operation, located far from the statermoos to keep the smells and fire risk at a distance. This meant that by the time food reached you, it was often lukewarm at best. A simple, hot broth was one of the few things that could be served genuinely warm. This logistical reality of the palace likely played as much a role in your morning menu as any doctor's prescription. The history of your diet is, like your health, surprisingly well-minus documented. We know from kitchen records and court diaries about your favorite dishes. You were fond of wild game, fresh garden vegetables grown in your own magnificent kitchen garden, the potage du roi, and, surprisingly for the time, fresh salads. But this morning ritual was sacrosanct. Always the broth. It was part of the unchanging rhythm of the lever. The academic debate here might focus on the social meaning of this public eating. In many cultures, sharing a meal is a fundamental act of community and equality. Your public meals were the exact opposite. They were designed to reinforce hierarchy. You ate, and others watched. The act of providing you with food and observing you consume, it was a way for the court to show its collective service to the body of the king, and by extension, to the state of France. It was not communion. It was a demonstration of your unique, elevated status. You did not break bread with them. You consumed fuel before them. You finished the last spoonful of broth. You do not wipe your own mouth. An attendant steps forward with a damp, scented napkin on, gently dabs your lips. The first valet removes the empty bowl and the tray. The brief culinary interlude is over. The sense of stillness evaporates. The hum of whispered conversation resumes in the gallery of courtiers. The machinery of the dressing ceremony wears back to life. You have been prayed over, wigged, shirted, and fed. Now, the serious business of choosing the day's finery can begin. Breakfast is over. The empty bowl has been whisked away. Now, the room's focus shifts to the next critical stage of your assembly, the selection of your daily finery. This is the domain of the Grand Maitre de la Garde minus robe, the master of the Grand Wardrobe. He is another of the great officers of the crown, a high minus ranking duke whose entire career and status are tied to the management of your clothes. He steps forward to the balustrade, followed by his own retinue of assistants carrying magnificent, fabric minus draped trays. The process of getting dressed now resumes, piece by painstaking piece. First come the breeches, likely made of fine silk or velvet, matching the coat you will eventually wear. The master of the wardrobe presents them, and with the help of the first valet, you step into them while still standing by the bed. Next come the silk stockings, held up by ornate garters, and your low minus heeled shoes with their distinctive diamond or gemstone buckles. Each item is presented and fitted with the solemnity of a coronation. But the real theater begins with the accessories. The master of the wardrobe presents a tray laden with cravates. These are not neckties as you know them, but long, elaborate strips of fine linen or lace, which are to be artfully tied around your neck. There are dozens of styles, from the relatively simple to the fantastically complex. Waterfalls of lace that cost a fortune and took immense skill to create. You survey the options. Your choice is not merely a matter of taste. It is a signal. A particularly flamboyant cravat might suggest a festive mood at court. A more sober, military-minus style knot could signal a day focused on matters of war. The court watches, eager to read the tea leaves or, in this case, the lace of your mood. You point to one. The master bows, and an army of hands descends to tie it perfectly around your neck. Next, a tray of ribbons. These are not just decorative. These are galantes, brightly colored silk ribbons that would be tied into elaborate bows and affixed to various parts of your costume at the shoulder, at the knee, on your shoes. Again, you choose the color and style. A small act of personal preference that will be dissected for meaning by the watching crowd. Will you choose the fiery red, the royal blue, the sunny yellow? Each choice adds another layer to the day's persona. This incredible focus on the details of your attire was a key element of your reign. You understood that fashion was a tool of power. By constantly changing the styles and demanding that your court keep up, you created another arena for expensive competition. A nobleman might bankrupt himself trying to afford the latest style of lace or the most fashionable color of silk, all in an effort to remain in your favor. It was a form of economic control, a way to keep the aristocracy's finances focused on courtly display rather than on, say, funding private armies. Here's a detail that underscores the sheer scale of this operation. Your wardrobe was colossal. Inventories from your reign list thousands of individual items. You had hundreds of coats, waistcoats, and breeches, a vast collection of hats, gloves, and canes, and, of course, an endless supply of lace cravats and silk stockings. The master of the wardrobe was not just a valet. He was the CEO of a massive and fantastically expensive fashion enterprise. He managed a huge staff of tailors, embroiderers, lace makers, and perfumers, all dedicated to outfitting a single man. The historical debate around this fashion monarchy is rich. Was this purely a calculated political strategy, a form of soft power to dazzle and control, or was it also a reflection of your own genuine, personal taste? The evidence suggests it was both. You clearly had a deep appreciation for luxury, craftsmanship, and the arts. You were a man who loved beauty and spectacle. Your political genius was in recognizing that your personal passion for splendor could be weaponized, turned into a powerful instrument of statecraft that kept your friends close and your rivals broke. The cravat is tied. The ribbons are chosen. You are beginning to look less like a man in his pajamas and more like the Sun King. You are now wearing your breeches, stockings, shoes, and a magnificent linen shirt. The crowd in the room has been watching this entire process with the intensity of spectators at a championship match. Every gesture, every choice, has been noted and filed away. The quiet, whispered conversations at the back of the room will now include analysis of your choice of cravat alongside discussions of military appointments and ministerial gossip. The process of your creation is also the process of creating the day's political weather, and you are not even wearing your coat yet. As the master of the wardrobe and his assistants flutter around you, arranging lace and silken ribbons, you are acutely aware of the 100 pairs of eyes. The space beyond the gilded balustrade is a sea of faces, a living, breathing entity that you must manage and command, even while someone is buckling your shoes. This is the audience, and their presence is the entire point of the exercise. You don't just feel their eyes, you can almost feel the weight of their collective ambition, their hopes, and their fears. They are not passive spectators, they are active, anxious participants. You can see them out of the corner of your eye, the subtle shifts in their posture, the way they lean in to hear a snippet of gossip, the strained nonchalance on the faces of those who feel they are being ignored. The room is a hotbed of silent communication, a raised eyebrow between two dukes, A discreetly whispered comment behind a perfumed handkerchief. A courtier, turning his back ever so slightly on a rival who has fallen from favor. It's a complex, silent ballet of social maneuvering, and it all revolves around you. You are the sun that warms them, and you are the sun that can burn them. Their whispers are a constant, low hum beneath the formal actions of the lever. This is where the real business of the court happens. Alliances are formed and broken here. Reputations are made and destroyed. A rumor that starts in the back of your bedchamber at 8 in the morning can become an established fact throughout the palace by noon. You are aware of this, and you use it. You know that a kind word to one man, delivered just loudly enough to be overheard, will be instantly transmitted through this human telegraph, shaping the political landscape of the day. Let's zoom in on a specific character in this crowd. Imagine a provincial nobleman, a marquis from a less-minus fashionable part of France. This is his first time being granted entry to the grand entree. For him, this is not a tedious daily routine. It is the culmination of a life's ambition. He is probably sweating in his new, slightly minus tight velvet coat. He is trying desperately to imitate the bored, languid expressions of the more seasoned courtiers, but his eyes are wide with a mixture of terror and awe. He is watching you, the living God, choose a cravat, and he is trying to commit every detail to memory so he can write about it in a letter to his wife. His presence here is a validation of his family's status, a prize he will cherish and boast about for the rest of his life. Now, for a peculiar and rather smelly detail about this assembled crowd. Hygiene at Versailles was, by modern standards, appalling. The palace, for all its splendor, was notoriously lacking in proper plumbing and sanitation. The sheer number of people living and working in Versailles, thousands of them, created an immense sanitary challenge. While you, the king, had your own private toilet facilities and took scented alcohol baths, the same could not be said for everyone. The hallways often smelled of sweat, stale perfume, and urine. The beautiful gardens were frequently used as open-serre latrines, so as you stand there, surrounded by the most elegantly dressed people in Europe, you are also surrounded by a miasma of odors that the heavy perfumes and powders are struggling to conceal. It's the great, unglamorous secret of the Sun King's court. This stark contrast between the exquisite refinement of the ritual and the often scrubby reality of life at court is a point of constant fascination for historians. Was the elaborate ceremony a way to distract from the dirt and discomfort? Or were people simply accustomed to a different level of sensory input? The historical consensus is that 17th century noses were simply not as sensitive or as offended by these smells as ours would be. Body odor was a normal part of life, and the perfumes were not so much to conceal it as to add a layer of personal, aristocratic scent on top of it. You, of course, are above all this. You are a being of pure, divine authority, but you are also a man with a nose. The pressure of this crowd is not just political and psychological. It is physical and sensory. It's the heat from their bodies, the rustle of their clothes, the murmur of their voices, and the heavy, perfumed air they exhale. You have to navigate all of this with an expression of serene, unruffled calm. Your ability to remain detached, to be both the center of this swirling vortex and completely unaffected by it, is the key to your power. You are the still point in the turning world of the court. The courtiers are watching you, but you are also watching them. You notice who is speaking to whom, who looks confident and who looks nervous. Your bedroom is not just a stage. It is your primary intelligence minus gathering agency. And as you prepare to put on your waistcoat, you are processing all this data, filing it away for future use in the intricate, never mind ascending game of ruling France. The cravat is tied. The ribbons are chosen. The master of the wardrobe steps back for a moment. This brief pause in the sartorial proceedings signals an opportunity for a different kind of business. The lever is not just about getting dressed. It's a model of royal efficiency. While your body is being assembled, your government is already at work. A new set of figures now push their way respectfully to the front of the crowd, stopping at the gilded balustrade. These are not the high-born dukes whose main job is to be decorative. These are your ministers and secretaries of state, men who might be of lesser noble birth, but who possess immense real power. They are the hard-minus working administrators who run the machinery of your kingdom. One of them, perhaps your formidable minister of war, the Marquis de Louvois, catches your eye. You give him a slight nod. This is the signal. He begins to give you a brief, whispered report, his voice low but clear, intended only for you and perhaps the few people standing closest to the rail. He might give you an update on troop movements on the German frontier, or on the progress of a new fortress being built. He speaks in concise, factual terms. He knows your time is precious. You listen intently, your expression unreadable. You might ask a sharp, pertinent question, demonstrating that you have already absorbed the information and are thinking 2 steps ahead. Have the supply convoys reached the garrison at Strasbourg? You might ask, your voice calm but authoritative. The minister provides the answer. The exchange takes no more than a minute, but a crucial piece of state business has been conducted. While this is happening, another secretary might be handing a document to the first valet, who then presents it to you. It could be a petition you need to review, or a decree requiring your signature. You might scan the document, your eyes moving quickly over the elegant script, before giving a nod of approval. All this is happening while an attendant is on his knees, carefully buckling your shoes. It is the ultimate act of multitasking, a seamless fusion of the domestic and the political. This practice of integrating work into every moment of your day was a hallmark of your reign. You were famously a tireless worker. You didn't just reign, you ruled. You chaired long council meetings, read endless reports, and maintained a firm grasp on the details of your government. You distrusted the high nobility with the real business of state, preferring to use dedicated, professional ministers who owed their entire careers to you. This moment in the lever is a clear demonstration of that system. The dukes get to watch you get dressed. The ministers get to actually govern with you. Here's a curious detail about your work style. You were a master of comprehensionlessly. You could seamlessly switch from discussing the lace on your cuff with the master of the wardrobe to discussing the financing of a naval expedition with your finance minister, Jean-Baptiste Colbert. This ability to operate on multiple levels simultaneously was one of the keys to your success. It also kept everyone around you on their toes. No one ever knew what aspect of your mind they were going to encounter: the fashion connoisseur, the military strategist, or the fischelhawk. The historical interpretation of your role as a working king has shifted over time. For centuries, you were portrayed as the epitome of the absolute monarch, a micromanager who controlled every aspect of France. More recent historians have challenged this, arguing that no single person, no matter how industrious, could truly control a kingdom as large and complex as 17th-century France. They suggest that your real genius lay in creating an efficient system and in choosing brilliant ministers like Colbert and Louvois. Your role was less about doing all the work yourself and more about being a decisive, well-informed chairman of the board. You were the ultimate arbiter, the final decision maker, but you relied heavily on the expertise of the men who now stand before you, whispering their reports. The debate continues: were you the master architect of your government, or just the powerful, charismatic face of a system run by a cadre of brilliant technocrats? The Minister of War finishes his report. He bows and steps back. Another secretary might step forward for a different, brief exchange. This continues for a few minutes, say rapid-fire series of micro-meetings that sets the agenda for the day. This entire time, the dressing process has not entirely stopped. The valets and wardrobe masters work around the ministers, a dance of politics and protocol. The performance of the lever is so well soiled that it can accommodate these interruptions without missing a beat. It is a spectacle of absolute control, not just over your clothes, but over the very flow of time and information. The business is concluded. For now, it is time to add the next layer of your royal identity. The ministers retreat from the balustrade. Their brief but vital business concluded. The focus of the room snaps back to the ceremony of your dressing. The master of the wardrobe steps forward again. The foundational layers are in place, but now come the items that signify not just your wealth, but your authority as the head of the French state and its martial leader. An attendant presents a magnificent baldric, a wide sash of embroidered leather or silk worn over the shoulder. Attached to it is your royal sword. It is not a heavy, functional battlefield weapon, but a lighter, more elegant dress sword. Its hilt is a masterpiece of the jeweler's art, crafted from gold and encrusted with diamonds and other precious stones. The master of the wardrobe takes the baldric and carefully drapes it over your right shoulder, so that the sword hangs gracefully at your left hip. The weight of the sword, though light, is a familiar, grounding presence. It is a potent symbol. It reminds the room full of formerly rebellious nobles that you are the commander minus in minus chief. Your power is not just based on divine right and elaborate ceremony. It is ultimately backed by military force. You are both the finely dressed peak hawk and the lion. Next comes another, even more significant, sash. An assistant brings forward a wide, sky-blue silk ribbon. This is the cordon bleu, the sash of the Order of the Holy Spirit, Order du Saint-Esprit. This was the most prestigious Mediaeval recorder in all of France. Its membership limited to the highest ranking nobles and those you wished to personally honor. As the Grand Master of the Order, you wear its insignia every single day. The Master of the Wardrobe drapes the blue ribbon over your other shoulder, crossing the baldric at your sword. At its base, hanging low on your hip, is the Order's distinctive badge, the Cross of the Holy Spirit, a white Maltese cross with a dove at its center. The addition of the cordon bleu is a crucial step in your transformation. It signals your role as the fount of all honor in the kingdom. Membership in this order was one of the greatest prizes you could bestow upon a nobleman, and your wearing of its sash is a constant, visible reminder of that power. Here's a curious detail that has trickled down into modern language, the term cordon bleu. The knights of this prestigious order became famous for their lavish and exquisite ceremonial dinners. Their banquets were so legendary that the term cordon bleu became a shorthand for excellence in cooking. So, when you hear about a cordon bleu chef today, the name originates from the very blue ribbon being draped over your shoulder right now, a strange and distant echo of the chivalric pomp of your court. The sword and the cordon bleu are now in place. They are powerful, intersecting lines of color and symbolism across your chest, the martial and the chivalric. The power to command and the power to reward. You are beginning to look less like a man getting dressed and more like a symbol being assembled. The historical context of these Mediaeval recorders is fascinating. They were, in essence, a medieval invention that you, a master of modern statecraft, adapted for your own purposes. Originally, orders like this were brotherhoods of knights bound by oaths of loyalty. You turned the Order of the Holy Spirit into the ultimate loyalty club. Its exclusivity and the splendor of its regalia made it an object of intense desire. You used appointments to the order to reward your most faithful followers and to bind them ever closer to your person. It was another masterstroke of political theater, using the romantic trappings of medieval chivalry to serve the needs of a modern, absolute state. Scholars often debate the effectiveness of these symbols. Did the hard-bitten generals and cynical, worldly dukes in the room truly feel a sense of awe when they saw you put on this sash? Or was it just another piece of the costume, another hoop to jump through? The consensus is that it was a bit of both. The symbols had been repeated so often, and the rewards associated with them were so real, that they acquired a power all their own. A nobleman might not have believed in the divine spirit of the order, but he absolutely believed in the power of the king who could grant him membership. The symbol and the power it represented had become inextricably linked. You glance down at the intersecting ribbons on your chest. The sword feels comfortable at your hip. You are now armed and decorated. The core components of your public identity are in place. The crowd watches. Their own blue ribbons or military sashes, a pale imitation of your own. The hierarchy is clear. There is only one final piece needed to complete the iconic image, the one that will crown the entire edifice. It's time for the main event in the world of wigs. The sword is at your hip. The blue ribbon of the Holy Spirit is across your chest. You are almost fully assembled. Now, for the crowning glory, the royal barber, who had discreetly retreated after fitting you with the short rising wig, steps forward once more into the sacred space within the balustrade. This time, he is not alone. He is followed by an assistant carrying a velvet mayonnaise-covered tray, and on that tray sits the day's main wig. This is not the modest placeholder you've been wearing for the last hour. This is the real thing, the perruquio, the full mayonnaise-bottomed wig, the iconic avalanche of curls that defines your image for eternity. It is a massive, towering creation of hair, cascading down your back and over your shoulders in a dark, lustrous torrent. It is heavy, it is elaborate, and it is the very essence of royal majesty. There isn't just one. You have a vast collection, and part of the morning ritual is choosing the wig for the day. The barber might present 2 or 3 options. A slightly less formal one if you are planning to go hunting, a more stately one for a day of council meetings, or a particularly grand one for receiving a foreign ambassador. You survey the options with a critical eye. This is the face you will present to the world. Your choice is noted by everyone. Today, you are chairing a meeting of the High Council, so you point to the most dignified and imposing of the wigs. The barber bows. He then approaches you and, with great care, lifts the small rising wig from your head. Once again, for a fleeting moment, the court sees your own thinning hair, the mortal man. Then, just as quickly, the barber lifts the great wig from its stand. This takes a certain amount of strength and skill. He holds it aloft for a moment, a magnificent, hairy sculpture, before lowering it carefully onto your head. He adjusts it, ensuring it is seated perfectly. He teases a few curls into place. The transformation is staggering and immediate. The man is gone. In his place stands the icon. The wig adds height, frames your face with a lion's mane of power, and completely erases any hint of personal frailty or age. You are no longer just Louis. You are Louis XIV, the Sun King, a living statue, an image of absolute, unwavering authority. This final, dramatic change is the climax of the dressing ceremony. The entire performance has been building to this moment. The placing of the crown of hair. Here's a fascinatedly weird detail about the maintenance of these creations. A wig of this quality was fantastically expensive, a major investment. To keep it looking its best, it had its own team of servants. It would be sent out for regular servicing, which involved combing, curling the hair over hot clay rollers, and, of course, regular powdering with scented flour to keep it looking fresh and to cover up any odors. Your wig likely had a better and more extensive staff than many of the minor nobles watching you right now. The adoption of the wig had a profound social impact. It created an entirely new industry of wig makers, hair merchants, and powder manufacturers, but it also had a physical effect on the men who wore them. The constant weight and heat of the wig, combined with the fact that men oft unshaved their heads underneath for a better fit and to reduce pests, changed the very silhouette of the aristocratic male. The historical debate around the wig often focuses on its symbolism. For supporters of the monarchy, it was a symbol of dignity and order, the gravity of the court. For critics and later revolutionaries, it became the ultimate symbol of aristocratic artifice and detachment from reality. They saw it as a ridiculous, unnatural costume, a way for the elite to literally cover up their true, flawed human nature. When the French Revolution came, one of the first things to go, along with the heads of the aristocrats, wore their powdered wigs. They were seen as inextricably linked to the old regime you so perfectly embodied. You look into the hand mirror one last time. You see the face of France staring back at you. The expression is serene, powerful, and utterly impersonal. The wig is perfectly in place. The barber and his assistants bowed deeply and retreat, their great work for the morning complete. You are now, for all intents and purposes, fully dressed. You are a walking, talking masterpiece of political branding, every element of your appearance carefully chosen and assembled to project an aura of absolute power. There is only one final, invisible touch to be added. The great wig is settled, a crown of manufactured hair that completes your visual transformation. The master of the wardrobe now steps forward for one of the final, most intimate, and most invisible acts of the lever. He holds a small, elegant glass bottle and a fine linen handkerchief. It is time for the royal perfume. He doesn't spray it into the air. Instead, he dabs a small amount of the precious liquid onto the handkerchief. He then presents the handkerchief to you. You take it and delicately touch it to your temples, your wrists, and the lace of your cravat. A subtle, intoxicating scent now surrounds you, a personal, invisible aura of power. In a Palestinian era where personal hygiene was a constant challenge, perfume was not a luxury, it was a necessity. It was a two-level factory warfare, a way to create a pleasant personal space in a world that often smelled of unwashed bodies, stale food, and poor sanitation. But for you, it was more than just a deodorant. It was a signature. You were famously sensitive to smells and had a passion for fragrances. You commissioned your own unique scents, created by the court's official perfumer. Your signature scent was not something that could be bought in a shop. It was yours alone, a fragrance associated exclusively with your person. The most famous of these was a potent concoction based on orange blossom water, a scent that was said to calm your nerves and soothe your frequent headaches. The scent of orange blossoms would forever be associated with the king. When you entered a room, your fragrance preceded you, announcing your arrival before you were even seen. Here's a truly fascinating detail about the world of 17th century perfume. It was a far cry from the light, synthetic fragrances of today. These were powerful, complex concoctions made from natural animal and plant extracts. The most prized ingredients were animal sea musk from the musk deer, civet from the civet cat, and ambergris, a waxy substance from the digestive system of sperm whales. These ingredients were incredibly potent, long-lasting, and, to a modern nose, might seem overwhelmingly strong and even a bit fecal. But in your time, they were the height of luxury, believed to have aphrodisiac and medicinal properties. Your personal scent was likely a complex blend of these heavy base notes overlaid with lighter florals like orange blossom, rose, or jasmine. It was a scent designed to be noticed and to last all day. The role of the court perfumer was a prestigious one. He was both an artisan and a chemist, working in a private laboratory filled with alembics, presses, and rare, exotic ingredient sorts from around the world. He was tasked not only with creating your personal scent, but also with perfuming your gloves, your wigs, and even the fountains in the gardens for special occasions. Versailles, on a good day, was a perfumed paradise, and you were its fragrant sun. The history of perfume at your court is a subject that intoxicates historians. They study the evolution of French perfumery, which truly came into its own under your patronage. The city of Grasse, in the south of France, became the center of this new luxury industry, growing the flowers needed for the Parisian perfumers. Your court's obsession with fragrance established France as the world leader in perfumery, a position it still holds today. The debate among scholars often revolves around the purpose of this fragrant cloud. Was it primarily a hygiene tool, a way to make life bearable, or was it an aesthetic and political statement, another layer of artifice designed to elevate the king and his court above the smelly, common masses? The answer is almost certainly both. It was practical magic, a way to smell good and to smell powerful. You hand the perfumed handkerchief back to the master of the wardrobe. The scent of orange blossom and musk settles around you. It is the final layer of your royal armor, an invisible shield of fragrance that completes your persona. You are now visually hundo olfactor ILY perfect. The formal dressing ceremony is essentially complete. The valets and wardrobe masters begin to discreetly gather their trays and tools. The crowd of courtiers can sense that the performance is nearing its end. But before you step out into the wider world of the palace, there is often a small window for one last, crucial interaction. You are now a standing, breathing monument to absolute monarchy. The wig is perfect, the sword is hung, the perfume is applied. The great machine of the lever has almost finished its work. In this moment, as the wardrobe masters make their final, fussy adjustments and the audience of courtiers begins to anticipate the ceremony's end, a small, crucial window of opportunity opens. This is often the moment for a quiet, almost imperceptible, political exchange. While the room is still full, the formal focus of the ritual has softened. This creates a space for a brief, semi-minus private conversation that is, paradoxically, performed in public. You might subtly catch the eye of a key minister, let's say your brilliant and long-minus serving finance minister, Jean-minus Baptiste Colbert. He has been standing patiently at the back, observing the whole pantomime. Your glance is an invitation. He understands immediately. He navigates the dense crowd, moving with practiced ease to the gilded balustrade. He leans in slightly. You might turn your head just a fraction, creating a small cone of intimacy. The ambient hum of the room provides a blanket of sound. Sire, Colbert might whisper, the tax receipts from the Normandy region are lower than anticipated. He is giving you a piece of sensitive information, one not suitable for the earlier, more formal reports. You listen, your face a mask of regal calm. You are a master of receiving information without reacting. Is it the harvest or the collectors? You might ask. Your voice a low murmur. Your question is sharpened to the point, showing you are already analyzing the problem. We suspect the collectors. Sire, I have prepared a report with recommendations. He replies, I will see it in council this afternoon. You say, your tone final. The conversation is over. It has lasted less than 30 seconds. Colbert bows, melts back into the crowd, his face betraying nothing. You have just received a vital piece of intelligence, made a preliminary decision, and scheduled to follow minus up. Oh, while the valet gives your silk stocking a final, straightening tug. This is the art of ruling from your bedroom. You use the public nature of the lever to your advantage. Having this conversation in public sends a message. The other courtiers see you speaking with Colbert. They see the seriousness of the exchange. Even if they can't hear the words, they will whisper among themselves the king spent time with Colbert. Matters of finance are clearly on his mind today. It helps you to manage the mood and expectations of the court, to signal your priorities without making a grand declaration. Here is a detail that illustrates the high stakes of these private chats. Gaining a moment like this was the ultimate goal for any ambitious minister or courtier. They would jockey for position, trying to catch your eye at the right moment. The memoirs of the era are filled with stories of ministers who managed to pass you a note or whisper a crucial word during the final moments of the lever, securing a policy victory or torpedoing a rival's project. This informal access was often more important than the formal, structured council meetings. It was where the real work got done. The historical interpretation of this style of governance is central to understanding your reign. You created a system with two parallel tracks: the formal, public track of council meetings and royal decrees, and the informal, personal track of private access and whispered conversations. To be successful at your court, one had to master both. This dual system allowed you to maintain ultimate control. You could play the two tracks off against each other, gathering information from informal channels to check the reports you received in formal ones. It made you the indispensable hub of all information. Nothing could happen without passing through you, either formally or informally. But did this system create an efficient government or a paranoid one? Scholars debate this endlessly. Critics argue that it fostered a culture of backstabbing, rumor, and intrigue, where who you knew was more important than what you knew. They suggest that ministers spent more time managing their access to you than they did managing their departments. Supporters, however, argue that it was a brilliant system of checks and balances, perfectly suited to your personality. It allowed you to keep your finger on the pulse of the kingdom and to prevent any single minister or faction from becoming too powerful. The quiet word with Colbert is over. You have switched from high politics back to the final details of your appearance without missing a beat. The performance is almost complete. The valets are stepping back. The ministers are silent. The courtiers are watching, waiting for the final, concluding actions that will signal your readiness to leave the chamber and begin the public life of the day. The brief, intense conversation with your minister is over. The political hum subsides, and the ceremony returns to its final, meticulous details. The master of the wardrobe and the first valet now perform the last few actions, the equivalent of a final systems check before a great machine is launched. An attendant steps forward holding a small, velvet-lined tray. On it are the items that will populate your royal pockets. These are not thrown in casually. Each is a carefully chosen piece of your daily equipment. First, your watch. It is not a wristwatch, of course, but a magnificent pocket watch. It is a marvel of engineering and art. Its case likely made of gold, engraved with mythological scenes, and perhaps decorated with enamel or gemstones. It is one of the most technologically advanced objects of its time, a symbol of precision, order, and your mastery over time itself. The valet takes it and carefully places it in a special pocket of your waistcoat. Next, a handkerchief. This is a separate one from the perfumed handkerchief used earlier. This one is for use. It is a square of the finest, most delicate linen. Its edges decorated with exquisite, hand-made lace. It is a small but potent symbol of your refinement and delicacy in a world that could be coarse and rough. The valet folds it perfectly, untucks it into your coat pocket. Then, perhaps, a snuff box. A small, beautifully crafted box of gold, silver, or tortoiseshell, containing powdered tobacco. Taking a pinch of snuff was a fashionable, aristocratic habit, and the quality of one snuff box was another subtle marker of status and taste, even if you don't use it. Carrying it is part of the costume. Finally, your pockets are filled. This act is more significant than it seems. It signals a transition. A man who is still in bed or in a state of undress has no need for pockets. A man whose pockets are being filled is a man who is about to move, to go out into the world. It is a clear, non-verbal signal to the entire room that the lever is approaching its conclusion. Here's a curious detail about the contents of your pockets. While these were the standard, ceremonial items, you were also a human being. Did you carry anything personal? A small locket with a miniature portrait? A lucky charm? The official records are silent on this, as they are meant to be. They document the public, symbolic items. But biographers and historians love to speculate about the small, secret objects a king might carry. Perhaps a trusted valet would discreetly slip a small, personal memento into your pocket, away from the prying eyes of the court. It's a tantalizing thought, a small island of personal reality, hidden within the ocean of public ceremony. The final items are now presented. The master of the wardrobe hands you your gloves, made of soft, teal leather, and your hat, a magnificent beaver-minus felt creation adorned with an ostrich plume, which you will carry under your arm rather than wear indoors. Finally, you are handed a walking cane, its head made of carved ivory or gilded silver. You are now holding the final props. Your hands are occupied. You are no longer a passive figure being dressed, but an active figure, equipped and ready for the day. The history of these personal accessories provides a fascinating window into the material culture of the 17th century. The watch, for example, was a relatively new and incredibly expensive piece of technology. Owning one placed you at the absolute cutting edge of science and fashion. Its ticking was a quiet, constant reminder of the ordered, mechanical universe that thinkers like Newton were beginning to describe. A universe you sought to emulate in the clockwork precision of your court. The academic debate might focus on the civilizing process, a concept famously explored by the sociologist Norbert Elias. He argued that courts like yours played a key role in teaching the aristocracy to control their impulses and refine their manners. The handkerchief is a perfect example. The medieval knight might have wiped his nose on his sleeve. You, the modern, civilized monarch, use a delicate piece of lace. This small object represents a major shift in social behavior, a move towards the internalized self control and bodily refinement that would come to define the European upper classes. Your lever was, in a sense, a daily lesson in the civilizing process, a masterclass in polite, controlled, and elegant behavior. The valets and wardrobe masters now take a final step back. They have done their work. Every item is in its place. Your pockets are filled. Your hands hold your hat and cane. There is nothing left to add. The creation is complete. A hush falls over the room. The moment is here. The last handkerchief is tucked. The last accessory is held. You take a half-minus step forward from the bedside. You are no longer a man being dressed. You are a finished product. For a brief moment, you stand perfectly still, a living statue at the center of your universe. This is the grand reveal, the final tableau of the morning's performance. The Sun King is assembled. Every single person in the room your family, the great dukes, the ministers, the doctors, the valets has their eyes locked on you. They see the complete picture they have just watched being created piece by painstaking piece. They see the magnificent, towering wig framing a face of serene authority. They see the fine lace of the cravat cascading down your chest. They see the rich velvet of your coat, the intersecting blue and gold of the sashes of honor and power. They see the glint of the diamond buckle on your shoe and the jeweled hilt of your sword. You are a symphony of color, texture, and symbolism, meticulously composed to project one single, unambiguous message, absolute power. This moment of silent appraisal is the payoff for the entire, tedious, our minus and minus, the minus half minus long ritual. It allows the image to set, to burn itself into the minds of the beholders. This is the image they will carry with them throughout the day. This is the image they will describe in their letters and diaries. This is the image that will be captured by court painters and disseminated throughout the kingdom and all of Europe. You had successfully transformed from a vulnerable, mortal man in a nightshirt into the immortal, divine embodiment of the French state. You let the moment hang in the air, demonstrating your complete mastery of theatrical timing. You might slowly scan the room, your gaze sweeping over the assembled courtiers. Your expression is neutral, impassive. You are not seeking their approval. You are allowing them the privilege of seeing you in your completed form. Their role is to admire, to be awed, and to be intimidated. Here is a detail that's easy to miss in the grandeur of the moment. This entire performance was conducted without a script. The rules were so deeply ingrained in everyone present that they moved undacted based on a shared, unspoken understanding of the protocol. The Duke of St. Minas, Simon, wrote down many of these rules in his memoirs. But for the people in the room, it was like a form of muscle memory. They knew when to step forward, when to bow, when to speak, and when to be silent. The lever was a perfectly choreographed ballet without a choreographer, a play without a script, where the story was always the same, the creation of the king. This deep, unspoken understanding of court etiquette was the price of admission. A newcomer who made a mistake, who stood in the wrong place, or spoke out of turn, would be mercilessly ridiculed. The complex, Unwritten rules were a way of separating the insiders from the outsiders, another tool for maintaining the court's exclusivity and reinforcing its hierarchy. The historical interpretation of your image is a massive field of study. Art historians, political scientists, and cultural critics have all tried to deconstruct the Louis XIV brand. They analyze the paintings of highest intrigo, which show you in this very state of magnificent assembly, as masterpieces of political propaganda. They argue that you were one of the first and most successful practitioners of image politics. Understanding that perception is reality, you created a personal brand that was so powerful, so iconic, that it has come to define an entire era. When people think of an absolute monarch, the image that comes to mind is the one you are presenting right now. That was this image a true reflection of you, the man, or was it a mask that you put on every morning? This is the great, unanswerable question at the heart of your reign. Did the mask eventually become the face? After decades of performing this role every single day, did you even know where the performance ended and the real you began? Biographers and psychologists can only speculate. Perhaps the most profound truth is that, for you, there was no difference. You were the king. The performance was your reality. You take a single, deep breath. The scent of your own perfume fills your senses. The weight of the sword at your hip is a familiar comfort. The weight of the 100 pairs of eyes is the air you breathe. The silent blow is held for a few seconds longer. Then, you move. You turn away from the bed, the altar of your morning resurrection. You take a step towards the gilded balustrade. The performance in the bedchamber is over. It is time to make your exit and begin the next act of the day. You take that first, decisive step away from the bed. The crowd of courtiers parts before you like the Red Sea before Moses. A pathway magically clears in the dense throng of bodies. The first valet moves to the gilded balustrade and opens its small, ornate gate. For the first time this morning, you cross the sacred threshold, moving from the inner sanctum of the alcove into the main body of the room. You are no longer a stationary object of veneration. You are a body in motion, a kinetic force. Your movement is the signal that the lever is officially over. The static, highly structured performance has come to its conclusion. You walk with a slow, deliberate, and dignified gait. You have been practicing this royal posture your entire life. Your back is straight, your head is held high, the heels of your shoes making a soft, authoritative click on the polished parquet floor. You do not rush. The Sun King moves at his own pace, and the world adjusts accordingly. As you head for the main doors of the bedchamber, the assembled crowd falls into a silent procession behind you. They arrange themselves in a precise, unspoken order of rank, a river of silken velvet flowing in your wake. The most senior dukes are closest to you, the lesser nobles and officials following behind. To be part of this procession, to be seen walking out of the king's bedchamber behind the king himself, is the final honor of the morning ritual. You reach the magnificent double doors. The ushers, who have been waiting at attention, pull them open with a synchronized flourish. You step across the threshold, out of the bedchamber and into the grandeur of the Hall of Mirrors, which serves as the main corridor of your palace. The moment you cross that threshold, the world changes. The relatively intimate, if crowded space of the bedroom gives way to the vast, public expanse of the palace. The Hall of Mirrors is already teeming with hundreds of other people, lesser courtiers, petitioners, servants, and palace functionaries who were not privileged enough to attend the lever itself. They have been waiting here, some for hours, just to catch a glimpse of you as you pass. As you emerge, a wave of respectful silence washes over the hall. The crowd bows or curtsies as one. Hats are swept from heads. All activity ceases. It is a moment of pure, unadulterated political theater. You are the sun emerging from behind the clouds, and your light silences and orders the entire world before you. Here's a final, curious detail about this moment. Every day, as you made this walk, People in the crowd would try to catch your attention, often by whispering the word sire in a pleading tone. They were petitioners, hoping you might take a document from their hands or listen to a brief plea. While you rarely stopped, this was a recognized, if informal, way for ordinary subjects to attempt to access their king. Your walk to the chapel was a moving audience hall, the final, slim chance for someone to get your attention before you were enclosed in council meetings. The historical significance of this exit is profound. It represents the completion of your daily transformation. You entered the bedroom as a private, in theory, individual, and you emerge as the public embodiment of the state. The architecture of the palace is designed to amplify this very moment. You move from the personal space of the bedroom through the semi-minus public space of the Hall of Mirrors, on your way to the sacred space of the chapel for morning mass. It is a journey that maps your very identity from man to king to servant of God. Scholars of ritual and power see this daily walk as the final, crucial act of the liver. The ceremony isn't truly over until the assembled court has been seen leaving your chamber with you. It publicly validates their access and their status. They did not just attend a private show, they were part of a state procession. It solidifies the bonds of patronage and dependence that hold the entire system together. You walk the length of the magnificent hall, the sunlight from the arched windows glinting off the mirrors, multiplying your image into infinity. You do not make eye contact with the bowing crowds. You look straight ahead, your expressions serene and distant. You are no longer in the business of personal interaction. You are now fully the icon, a sacred object moving through your temple. Your destination is the palace chapel, where you will hear mass, reinforcing the divine authority that was established in your private prayer an hour ago. The long, strange, and incredibly public morning routine is over. You have been awakened, examined, dressed, fed, and worshipped. You have survived another lover, and the day has just begun. And so, you leave the Sun King to his day of absolute rule. Feel your own body, not weighed down by velveted wigs, but resting comfortably. Let go of the Hall of Mirrors, of the whispering crowds and the suffocating protocol. Return to the quiet privacy of your own room, a luxury the most powerful king in the world could never truly know. Allow the gentle silence around you to be a comfort, a sign that you are your own person in your own time. Let the feeling of peace deepen with each slow breath, a quiet rhythm carrying you away from the gilded cage and into the boundless freedom of your own dreams.